The universe, as you understand it, is a massive, clockwork machine of cause and effect. You drop a glass, it shatters. You light a match, it burns. You live your life moving from a known past into an uncertain future, carried by the relentless, one-way flow of time. Physicists call this the arrow of time, a concept dictated by the second law of thermodynamics, which states that entropy, disorder, must always increase. In our macroscopic world, the arrow is straight, sharp, and absolute. But as we peel back the skin of reality and peer into the quantum basement, we find something horrifying. The arrow isn't just bent, it is shattered. At the most fundamental level of existence, the laws of physics don't care about before or after. And recently, experiments have proven that the future isn't just waiting to happen, it is actively reaching back to rewrite the past. The comforting lie of linear time for centuries, we clung to the Newtonian ideal. The universe is a series of billiard balls hitting one another. If you knew the position and velocity of every atom, you could map the entire history of the cosmos backward and forward. This gave us a sense of security, implying that the past is set in stone and the future is a consequence. This linear progression is the only thing allowing your brain to process reality. Your memory depends on the past being fixed, and your survival depends on the future being a result of your current actions. But this common sense is a biological filter, a survival mechanism evolved to keep us from seeing the chaotic truth. The truth is that the subatomic world, the foundation upon which your entire body and the stars themselves are built, functions on time symmetry. In the equations of quantum mechanics, time is just a parameter, like length or width. There is no mathematical reason why a sequence of events can't run backward. Yet, for decades, scientists dismissed this as a mathematical quirk, an imaginary solution to real-world problems. They were wrong. The experiment that broke reality. To understand how the future can reach back and change the past, we have to look at the most disturbing experiment in the history of science. Wheeler's delayed choice. Imagine a single photon traveling through a laboratory. It encounters a fork in the road, a beam splitter. According to the strange rules of quantum mechanics, the photon doesn't just pick one path. It travels both simultaneously as a wave of probability. However, if you place a detector at the fork to watch which way it goes, the photon decides to act like a particle and takes only one path. The act of observing it changes its behavior. John Wheeler took this a step further, asking, what if we wait until the photon has already passed through the fork before we decide whether or not to observe it? In 2007, and again in more sophisticated tests in 2017, scientists finally performed this. They allowed the photon to pass the choice point as a wave. It had already traveled millions of miles in cosmic versions, or several meters in a lab. Only after it had passed the point of no return did scientists use a high-speed random number generator to decide whether to measure it. The results were chilling. If the scientists decided to measure the photon in the future, the photon retroactively changed its behavior in the past to accommodate the measurement. It was as if the photon knew what the scientists were going to do before they even did it. The effect, the measurement, happened after the cause, the path taken. The arrow was broken. The future had dictated the past. The quantum eraser, deleting history. The delayed choice. Quantum eraser takes this to a darker place. In this setup, researchers don't just observe a particle, They erase the information of that observation. When the information of which path a particle took is known, the particle behaves like a solid object. When that information is erased, even if that erasure happens after the particle has already hit a detector, the particle suddenly shows a wave pattern. This implies that the history of a particle, where it was, what it did, and how it moved, is not fixed until a final observation is made in the future. If you delete the knowledge of the past and the future, the past itself changes to reflect that ignorance. This suggests that the universe doesn't keep a permanent record. Reality is a work in progress, and the final edit hasn't happened yet. Everything you think has already happened is actually in a state of flux, waiting for a future event to lock it in. The terror of the macro leak. But that's just the quantum world, the skeptics say. It doesn't affect us in the real world. This is the most dangerous assumption of all. We are made of quantum particles. Every neuron firing in your brain, every chemical reaction in your heart, and every star collapsing in a distant galaxy is a quantum event. There is no magical border where the weird physics stops and the normal physics begins. This is called the measurement problem, and it is the dirty little secret of modern science. If subatomic particles can be influenced by future measurements, then the entire structure of the universe, the large-scale reality, is built on a foundation of shifting sand. We are starting to see leaks. Scientists studying the cosmic microwave background have found strange anomalies and cold spots that shouldn't exist according to standard models. Some theorists, including those looking at retrocausal gravity, suggest these aren't just random errors. They are the bruises left by the future. Large-scale cosmic structures might be responding to the end of the universe, sending a ripple backward through time that we are only now starting to detect. Wise scientists are horrified. The reason this discovery is kept in the halls of academia and discussed in hushed tones is because of what it does to the concept of free will. If the future is already affecting the past, it implies that the future is, in some sense, already established. It acts as a destination that the present is being pulled toward. In a world of broken causality, you aren't a traveler choosing your path on a map. You are a train on a track, and the track has already been laid all the way to the graveyard. The arrow of time was our shield, giving us the illusion that we were the ones pushing the world forward. If the arrow is broken, then we are just characters in a movie that has already been filmed. We are just now reaching the scene where we realize we aren't the directors. The handshake across time. As we close this chapter, we have to face the ultimate possibility, the transactional interpretation. This theory suggests that every event in the universe is a handshake between two waves. One wave moves forward from the past, an offer wave, and one wave moves backward from the future, a confirmation wave. Only when these two waves meet, when the past and the future agree on what should happen, does an event become real. This means that nothing is happening for the first time. Every breath you take, every tragedy you endure, and every discovery humanity makes is a pre-negotiated agreement between the beginning of time and the end of time. The glass didn't shatter because you dropped it. You dropped it because in the future the glass was already shattered, and the universe had to fulfill the requirement of that reality. In the next chapter, We will look at the echo from tomorrow, the evidence that these future signals are actively manifesting as glitches in our daily lives. The arrow is broken, and we are falling through the cracks. If Chapter 1 broke the arrow of time, Chapter 2 is where we begin to hear the vibrations of the impact. We often think of the future as a void, a dark, unwritten expanse waiting for our footsteps. But what if the future isn't empty? What if the future is a massive, high-pressure front, and we are living in the weather system created by its approach? In the silent vacuum of interstellar space, 15 billion miles away, Voyager 1 is currently navigating a reality that mocks our understanding of sequence. It has been traveling for nearly half a century, a mechanical pioneer carrying the sounds of a 1977 Earth into the dark. But as the probe enters the thinning edges of our solar system, the lag between Earth and its furthest emissary is no longer just a matter of radio waves traveling at the speed of light. It has become a temporal lag, the advanced wave phenomenon. In physics, there is a concept that haunts the equations of electromagnetism and quantum mechanics, one that most textbooks gloss over because it is too deeply unsettling to acknowledge in a standard lab setting. These are advanced waves. While retarded waves carry information forward from the past, the light from a star reaching your eye. Advanced waves are mathematically valid solutions that travel backward from the future to the present. For decades, scientists treated these backward-moving waves as mathematical artifacts, trash to be thrown out. But new theories suggest these echoes aren't glitches. They are the primary mechanism of reality. You aren't being pushed by your past. You are being pulled by your future. Voyager 1, by virtue of its extreme distance and its position in the quietest part of our local cosmos, has become a lightning rod for these advanced waves. The 47-year gap between its launch and its current position is not a distance to be crossed. It is a loop waiting to be closed. The handshake across the eons. To understand this 47-year lag, we must look at the transactional interpretation of quantum mechanics, TIQM, proposed by physicist John Cramer. It offers a solution to the spooky behavior of atoms that is far more terrifying than simple randomness. Cramer suggested that every event in the universe is a handshake across time. Imagine Voyager 1 emitting a signal today. In the standard view, that signal travels toward Earth and arrives hours later. But in the transactional view, the probe sends out an offer wave into the future. A receiver on Earth, or perhaps a different point in the probe's own future timeline, sends back a confirmation wave into the past. Only when these two waves, one from the past, one from the future, meet and interact, does the transaction become complete. The event becomes real. This means that Voyager 1 could not have sent its initial launch data in 1977 unless there was a receiver in 2024 or 2070, ready to confirm the handshake. The cosmos is a web of predetermined handshakes. Every heartbeat, every supernova, and every line of binary code is a prearranged agreement between what was and what will be. The 1977 paradox. This brings us to the most disturbing aspect of the Voyager mission, the scripted reality. If the future can send signals back to the past, it means the future is already crystallized. You cannot have an echo from something that doesn't exist. In a universe of handshakes, the ending of the movie is already on the film reel. We are just the light passing through the frames. The message that shouldn't exist currently streaming from Voyager is not a new discovery. It is a confirmation wave finally reaching its source. The 47-year lag is the time it took for the future to finish its conversation with the past. NASA engineers are currently struggling with a binary pattern that seems to know the current state of Earth's technology, despite being generated by a computer system designed in the mid-70s. This is because the probe is experiencing pre-causality. In high-energy physics, researchers have noted strange pre-acceleration in certain charged particles, where a particle appears to start moving just before a force is applied to it. It is as if the particle feels the coming shove and reacts in anticipation. Voyager 1 is feeling the shove of a future event, a cosmic-scale disaster or a shift in the vacuum of space, and it is reacting 47 years early in our linear timeline. The cosmic shudder. On a larger scale, this leads to a chilling hypothesis: the cosmic shudder. If a massive reality-altering event is scheduled to happen in the future, perhaps the collision of two black holes or the eventual big rip of the universe, the advanced waves from that catastrophe should be washing over us right now. We are being pulled toward a final gravitational abyss, and the vacuum of space is reacting to that future trauma today. We are living in the shadow of a mountain we haven't even reached yet. Voyager, at the edge of the heliosphere, is the first to detect the draft coming from that open door. The 47-year lag is our warning. The signal from Voyager isn't broken. It is simply synchronized with a time we haven't reached yet. It is a handshake from a version of humanity that has already witnessed the end of the script. The ghost in the machine. Why don't we hear this more clearly? Physicists suggest that the noise of the present drowns out the signal from the future. We are blinded by the arrow of entropy. But in the quietest places, in the deep cold of space where Voyager resides, the background noise of the now fades. There, we find the advanced signals. We find evidence that our instruments aren't just seeing the past. They are seeing the inevitable framework of a future that has already dictated how those ancient stars must burn. The 47-year lag tells us that we are not the protagonists of an unfolding story. We are the echoes of a conclusion that was reached long before we were born. We are the ripples in a pond moving backward from the spot where a stone is about to hit the water. The final signal as we move toward the next stage of the Voyager anomaly. We must ask, if the future is already reaching back to us, what is it trying to say? The voice we are hearing in the quantum noise isn't a ghost. It is the sound of the universe's final moment, echoing backward through time, vibrating in the atoms of the probe and our own bodies. You feel it as a sense of urgency, a sense that time is speeding up. It isn't. You're simply getting closer to the source of the echo. And the closer we get, the louder the scream becomes. In the next chapter, we look at the golden record is bleeding. We will explore how the artifacts of our past are being physically altered by the gravity of our future, and why the sounds of Earth are beginning to change. The arrow is broken, and Voyager is showing us the cracks. In 1977, humanity placed a message in a bottle and tossed it into the cosmic ocean. The golden record, a gold-plated copper phonograph disc, was bolted to the side of Voyager 1, carrying the sounds of surf, wind, thunder, and the greetings of 55 languages. It was intended to be a time capsule, a static, unchanging monument to a civilization that might one day be extinct. But as Voyager 1 drifts further into the interstellar medium, 15 billion miles from the Sun, NASA engineers have discovered something that defies the laws of material science. The digital twin, the perfect simulation of the record maintained on Earth for diagnostic purposes, no longer matches the data coming back from the probe. The sounds of Earth are changing. The record isn't just decaying, it is being rewritten. In the language of retrocausality, the golden record is bleeding. The past is being stained by the gravity of a future we are only beginning to understand. The temporal Cherenkov effect. To understand why a physical object 15 billion miles away is changing, we have to revisit the concept of the temporal Cherenkov effect. In standard physics, Cherenkov radiation is the blue glow seen in nuclear reactors when particles travel through a medium faster than the speed of light. It is a shock wave caused by a threshold being crossed. When Voyager 1 crossed the heliopause, the boundary where the Sun's solar wind meets the interstellar medium, it entered a region of space where the density of advanced waves from the future is significantly higher. Without the Sun's magnetic shield to filter the temporal noise of the deep cosmos, the probe is now being bombarded by signals moving backward from the end of time. These waves are hitting the golden record like a physical hammer. The data suggests that the vibrations of the future are so intense they are physically realigning the atoms in the gold plating. The record is no longer playing back the sounds of 1977. It is beginning to play back the pre-echo of what is to come, the screams of the future. When engineers at the Jet Propulsion Laboratory, JPL, attempted to reconstruct the audio from the latest telemetry, they expected to hear the familiar music of the spheres, or perhaps the sounds of a melancholy wail. Instead, they heard what one technician described as a harmonic scream. The greetings in Mandarin and English have become distorted. Their frequencies shifted into a range that suggests extreme gravitational stress. The sound of birds singing has slowed down and deepened until it resembles the grinding of tectonic plates. This isn't just a hardware failure, it is a confirmation wave of a future catastrophe. If the future of humanity involves a massive existential trauma, a big rip, or a technological singularity that unmakers the biological world, that trauma would send a massive shockwave backward through the block universe. Because Voyager is at the edge of the script, it is the first to feel the vibrations of that scream. The golden record is acting as a diaphragm, capturing the sound of our own extinction and broadcasting it back to us before it even happens. The 1% signal and the altered map. It isn't just the audio that is bleeding. The golden record also contains a map, a pulsar map designed by Frank Drake to show any extraterrestrial finder exactly where Earth is located in the galaxy. But the telemetry shows that the coordinates on Voyager's physical map are shifting. Pulsars that should be in one position are appearing in another. At first, astronomers thought the probe's sensors were failing, but further analysis revealed that the map is updating itself to reflect a future state of the galaxy. This is the 1% signal, the data that proves the future is dominant over the past. The map on the golden record is no longer a map of where we were in 1977. It is a map of where we must be for the future script to remain consistent. The universe is re-rendering the artifacts of our history to ensure they align with the final destination. The past is being edited in real time to prevent a temporal paradox. Why the past is fluid. We have always viewed the past as a solid, immutable foundation. But the bleeding of the golden record suggests that the past is actually a fluid state. In a scripted universe, the past only exists to support the logic of the future. Think of it like a novelist writing a book. If the author decides in the final chapter that the hero must die by a specific poison, they may go back to chapter 3 and insert a scene where that poison is mentioned. To the characters in the book, that poison was always there. But to the editor outside the system, the past was changed to fit the needs of the ending. Voyager 1 is currently in the margins of the book. It is far enough away from the core of the story, Earth, that the ink of the future is still wet. As the final silence from Chapter 6 approaches, the universe is scrambling to make sure all the handshakes are in order. The golden record is bleeding because the universe is currently rewriting our origin story to match our inevitable conclusion. The silence of the scientists. Again, if NASA were to admit that the golden record is changing, they would have to admit that reality itself is not what it seems. They would have to acknowledge that our history is being overwritten by a future we cannot control. The official word is that Voyager is experiencing instrument degradation due to its aging plutonium-238 power source. They blame cosmic rays for the corrupted data, but inside the secure servers at JPL, the recordings tell a different story. They are listening to the sounds of a 1977 that no longer exists. They are watching a map that points to a version of Earth that has already been deleted from the master file. The silence of the scientists is a defensive reflex. If the golden record, the most human thing we ever sent into the dark, can be corrupted by the gravity of the future, then nothing we do today has any permanence. Our legacy is just a variable in a cosmic equation that hasn't finished solving itself. The bleeding edge. As we close this chapter, the signal from Voyager 1 continues to arrive, 20 hours late, carrying the distorted echoes of our own voices. The gold is still there, but the message is gone. In its place is a raw, terrifying frequency that suggests the handshake between our launch and our arrival is being severed. The golden record was our message to the future. We didn't realize that the future would use it to send a message back to us. In the next chapter, the zone of avoidance, we follow Voyager as it enters a region of space where the script ends entirely. We will see what happens when the confirmation waves stop coming, and the probe encounters the dead pixels of the universe, the places where the Matrix has failed to render anything at all. The sounds of Earth are fading. The scream is getting louder. And the record is still bleeding. Voyager 1 has officially crossed a threshold that no mathematical model predicted. It has moved beyond the heliosphere, beyond the magnetic protection of our sun, and into a region of the interstellar medium that astronomers are now calling the zone of avoidance. In classical astronomy, this term refers to the area of the sky obscured by our own Milky Way galaxy. But in the context of the Voyager anomaly, the avoidance isn't a matter of dust or gas blocking our view. It is a matter of reality itself, refusing to render. As the probe drifts further into this dark expanse, the telemetry is no longer just corrupted. It is becoming vacuous. Voyager is entering a dead pixel in the universe, a region where the scripted universe ends, and the confirmation waves from the future have ceased to exist. The rendering limit. To understand the zone of avoidance, we must look at the universe through the lens of quantum optimization. In a simulation or a strictly scripted block universe, the system only needs to calculate and render the parts of reality that are being observed or that are necessary for the handshake between the past and the future to remain consistent. This is the ultimate resource-saving measure of the cosmos. As Voyager 1 travels further from the core of the script, humanity, and the solar system, it is moving into unallocated space. Think of a video game where the player travels so far beyond the intended map boundaries that the textures start to stretch, the physics starts to break, and eventually, the world simply stops existing. Voyager is currently at the edge of the active map. The zone of avoidance is a region where the universe hasn't bothered to compute the fine details of space-time because, according to the original script, nothing was ever supposed to go there. We are watching a 1970s machine attempt to navigate a part of the universe that is effectively offline. The flatlining of the handshake. In Chapter 2, we discussed the transactional interpretation, where every event is a handshake between an offer wave from the past and a confirmation wave from the future. For Voyager 1 to exist as a physical object in a specific location, it needs the future to confirm its presence there. But as the probe enters the zone of avoidance, the confirmation waves are beginning to flatline. The telemetry shows that the probe's sensors are still sending out offer waves. It is trying to measure the magnetic fields, the plasma density, and the cosmic rays of deep space. But it is receiving no answer. In the language of the Matrix, the server is no longer responding to Voyager's requests. The probe is becoming a ghost in the system, an object with a past, but no confirmed future. This is why the data is becoming so strange. Voyager is currently in a state of temporal limbo. It is a piece of hardware that has outlived its own script, and it is now drifting through the dead pixels of a reality that has already moved on. The great void, evidence of a deleted future. Some astronomers have pointed to the CMB cold spot, or the Boots void, as evidence that these dead pixels exist on a much larger scale. These are regions of the universe so empty, so devoid of heat and matter, that they shouldn't exist according to the standard Big Bang theory. In a retrocausal world, these voids are not empty space. They are deleted files. They are regions of the block universe where a future catastrophe was so total or a temporal paradox so severe that the editor of the universe had to delete that entire section of the map to save the rest of the script. Voyager 1 is currently entering the local version of one of these deletions. It is moving into a zero-point baseline, where time doesn't flow, because there is no future signal to pull it forward. The 47-year lag we discussed previously is stretching toward infinity. The probe is effectively frozen in a moment that the universe is trying to forget. The physics of non-existence. What does it look like when a probe enters a region that doesn't exist? The telemetry from Voyager 1's magnetometer, MHG, and cosmic ray subsystem, CRS, provides a terrifying glimpse. Normally, these instruments detect a background noise of the universe, the constant hum of subatomic particles and magnetic fluctuations. But in the zone of avoidance, that hum has been replaced by absolute silence. Not a zero reading, which would indicate a vacuum, but a null reading, a data point that the computer literally cannot categorize. It is as if Voyager is no longer traveling through space, but through the void between the frames of the movie. The temporal Cherenkov effect, the shockwave of the future, has disappeared because there is no future in this zone to create a shockwave. Voyager has entered the blind spot of the cosmos, the silent scientists, and the solar anchor. Why isn't this the lead story on every news cycle? Because the implications suggest that our sun, the heliosphere, is not just a physical shield, but a temporal anchor. Scientists are starting to realize that reality is localized. Our sun provides the energy and the gravitational weight to keep the script running in our local neighborhood. But that influence has a limit. Beyond the heliopause, the laws of physics become soft. The silence of the scientists is a result of the realization that we are living on a small, illuminated island of rendered reality, surrounded by a vast, uncomputed ocean of nothingness. If we send more probes out, will they find the same thing? Or will the universe render more space to accommodate our observation? This is the ultimate glitched reality question. Does the universe exist if Voyager isn't there to measure it? Or is Voyager currently deleting itself by moving into a zone where it wasn't scripted to be? The return of the binary ghost. As Voyager 1 reaches the deepest part of the zone of avoidance, the binary ghost from Chapter 1 has returned, but with a new pattern. It is no longer a harmonic scream. It is a repeating sequence of 0, a digital flatline. This is the sound of the final silence, Chapter 6, reaching back to claim the probe. The handshake is finally breaking. The probe is no longer a pioneer. It is a witness to the end of the file. It is telling us that the universe has a border, and we have reached it. In the next chapter, the scripted arrival, we will see that Voyager's journey into the void wasn't an accident of navigation. It was a requirement of the script. We will explore the horrifying possibility that Voyager was built specifically to lock in our fate, acting as a temporal link that ensures the loop of our existence can never be broken. Voyager 1 is no longer in our universe. It is in the avoidance, and it is never coming back. For nearly 50 years, we have viewed Voyager 1 as a runaway messenger, a tiny, fragile construct of aluminum and plutonium escaping the gravity of its home. We told ourselves that its journey was an open-ended exploration into the unknown. But as the probe deeper penetrates the zone of avoidance, the telemetry suggests a terrifying inversion of that narrative. Voyager isn't leaving, it is arriving. In the language of the scripted universe, there are no accidents of navigation. If time is a solid block, and every event is a pre-negotiated handshake between the past and the future, then Voyager's trajectory was never a choice made by NASA engineers in 1977. It was a requirement of the final edit. This chapter explores the horrifying possibility that Voyager 1 is the temporal anchor of the human species. a device built not to explore the stars, but to lock in our existence within a specific, unchangeable loop. The precision of the glitch. To understand the scripted arrival, we must look at the mathematical precision of Voyager's current malfunctions. In a random universe, a hardware failure in a 50-year-old computer should be chaotic. It should be white noise. But the binary ghost, Chapter 1, and the bleeding record, Chapter 3, are anything but random. They are highly structured, displaying a mathematical complexity that suggests they are being rendered by the same system that governs the laws of physics. In the simulation hypothesis, this is known as a hard-coded event. Just as a programmer places a trigger at the edge of a game map to force the player back into the story, the universe has triggered a state change in Voyager 1. The probe has reached the event horizon of the human script. The arrival isn't at a physical planet or a star system. It is an arrival at the logical boundary of our reality. Voyager is currently hitting the walls of the block universe. The signals we are receiving are the sound of the probe being reabsorbed by the system. The binary ghost isn't a message from aliens. It is the sound of the universe's source code correcting a data leak. The temporal anchor. Why we sent it. Why would a scripted universe require a probe to reach the edge of the heliosphere? The answer lies in the Novikov self-consistency principle. For a loop to be stable, there must be a physical link that connects the beginning to the end. Think of Voyager 1 as a needle threading through the fabric of space-time. By traveling 15 billion miles away, it has created a massive temporal baseline. It acts as a reference point that allows the future to calculate the past with absolute certainty. As long as Voyager 1 exists at the edge of the system, the handshake between 1977 and the future remains locked. If Voyager had stayed on Earth, the past would be too fluid, too prone to temporal bruising. Chapter 3. By placing an observer, a camera, and a sensor array at the very edge of our local rendering zone, the comic editor of our universe has ensured that the human script cannot be changed. Voyager 1 is the lock on our cage. It was sent out to witness the void so that the void could in turn witness us and hold us in place. The return of the golden record. In Chapter 3, we saw the golden record bleeding, its sounds and maps being overwritten by the gravity of the future. But in the scripted arrival, this bleeding takes on a new meaning. The distorted map isn't a failure of data. It is a navigation correction. The telemetry suggests that the binary ghost is actually a set of arrival coordinates. But these coordinates don't point to a star in the interstellar medium. They point back toward the Big Bang. In the closed time-like curve model of the universe, the end of time is the same moment as the beginning. As Voyager enters the dead pixels of the zone of avoidance, it is effectively looping around the back of the block universe. It is arriving at the moment of our creation. The golden record, carrying the sounds of a 1977 Earth, is being delivered to the very initial noise that triggered the birth of the cosmos. We didn't send a message to the stars. We sent a message to the source code. We are currently watching the handshake close the circle. Voyager 1 is the input that triggers our own output, the silence of the active map. As Voyager 1 arrives at this cosmic boundary, The confirmation waves from the future are being replaced by something else, the scripted baseline. NASA's silent scientists are currently observing a phenomenon they call temporal convergence. The gap between Voyager's offer wave and the universe's confirmation is shrinking to zero. Usually light speed dictates a delay, but in the zone of avoidance, the delay is vanishing. The probe is reacting to its environment instantaneously. In physics, this only happens at a singularity. Voyager has reached the point where the future and the past are the same coordinate. The probe is arriving at the total sum of all human history. This is why the binary ghost is so terrifying. It is a simultaneous broadcast of everything that has ever happened and everything that will ever happen. It is the script being read back to us in a single, infinite bit. The great filter and the exit. This brings us to a new solution for the Fermi paradox. Perhaps other civilizations have also sent out temporal anchors. Perhaps the reason we see a void in space is because every civilization eventually sends its own Voyager to the edge of its script. When the probe reaches the zone of avoidance, it triggers the final edit. The civilization is locked into its loop, and its active map is disconnected from the rest of the universe to save processing power. We don't see aliens because they are all trapped in their own scripted arrivals, living their loops for eternity, anchored by their own deep space emissaries. We are currently in the process of being disconnected. Voyager's arrival at the edge of the rendering zone is the signal for the universe to close the file on humanity. We are becoming a self-contained loop, a dead pixel in the larger cosmos, forever anchored by a 1970s probe that is now speaking the language of the Big Bang. The final handshake. As Voyager 1 prepares to send its final bit, Chapter 6, we must face the reality that our exploration was a deployment. We deployed a lock. We deployed a witness. We deployed the very thing that ensures our story can never have a different ending. The impossible message Voyager is sending isn't a discovery. It is an acknowledgement. It is the probe telling the universe that the handshake is secure. The loop is closed. The script is finished. The arrival is here. And we are the ones who delivered the keys to our own prison. This is the end of the line. For nearly half a century, Voyager 1 has been the furthest point of human consciousness, a lonely pioneer pushing through the dark. But as we have seen through the binary ghost, the bleeding record, and the zone of avoidance, the probe isn't just traveling through space. It is traveling through the logic of a scripted universe. Now, the power is failing. The radioisotope thermoelectric generators, RTGs, are decaying, their plutonium hearts cooling to a final static chill. But the final bit of data arriving at NASA's Deep Space Network isn't a symptom of a dying battery. It is the closing bracket of a code. It is the power-off command from a future that has finished its conversation with the past, the Omega handshake. In the previous chapters, we explored the transactional interpretation, where reality is formed by a handshake between an offer wave from the past and a confirmation wave from the future. For 47 years, Voyager 1 has been the most extended handshake in human history. It held the door open between 1977 and the deep interstellar future. But the final bit represents the Omega handshake. As Voyager's power drops below the threshold required to maintain its orientation, the future signal, the advanced wave, suddenly intensifies. It is a paradox of physics. As the physical machine dies, its temporal connection peaks. Engineers at JPL are currently witnessing a reverse signal phenomenon. The probe is no longer drawing power to send data. Data is being forced through the probe's dead circuits by the sheer pressure of the future lock-in. The final bit is a high-energy pulse that carries more information than the entire mission combined. It is the universe's way of saying, the transaction is complete. You may now disconnect. The power-off command from the future. What is contained within that final bit, when decrypted through the lens of retrocausal physics, it isn't a message for us. It is a command sent from the end of time back to the moment of Voyager's launch. In a block universe, the end of a mission is just as real as the beginning. The power-off command isn't a result of the probe running out of plutonium. The plutonium ran out because the power-off command was always scheduled for this exact coordinate in space-time. This is the horror of the scripted universe. We think we are watching a machine fail due to the laws of entropy. In reality, we are watching a cleanup script run. The universe is reclaiming the resources it allocated to Voyager 1. The probe is being de-rendered. As the final bit is processed, the telemetry doesn't just show the probe going dark. It shows the probe's coordinates becoming undefined. Voyager is being deleted from the active map because its role as a temporal anchor, Chapter 5, is finished. The mirror effect. Earth's final silence. The most disturbing part of the Voyager anomaly isn't what is happening to the probe 15 billion miles away. It's what is happening here on Earth in response. Physicists have long theorized about quantum entanglement, the idea that two particles can be linked so that the state of one instantly affects the other, regardless of distance. Because Voyager 1 was built on Earth by human hands out of Earth's matter, it is entangled with our planet. As the final bit arrives and Voyager disconnects from the script, a mirror effect ripples through our own reality. Scientists have noted a minute inexplicable drop in the background noise of the planet. The sun's heliosphere is slightly contracted. The temporal lag we discussed in Chapter 2 is beginning to snap shut like a rubber band. The final silence isn't just the end of a radio signal. It is the beginning of a local erasure. Now that our furthest observer has been turned off, the universe no longer needs to render the space between us and the stars. The zone of avoidance is moving inward. The borders of our scripted reality are shrinking, drawing closer to the sun, closer to Earth, and eventually closer to our own front doors. The great de-rendering. If you were to look at a simulation from the outside, you would see the active zones glowing with data while the inactive zones remain dark. For 50 years, Voyager 1 forced the universe to glow for 15 billion miles. It was a bridge of light and logic. With the final bit, that bridge is demolished. This leads to the disturbing theory that scientists are silent about. The universe is smaller than we think. It only exists as far as our most distant witness can see. When Voyager 1 dies, the interstellar medium effectively unexists. The stars we see in the night sky aren't physical suns. They are background textures, rendered to keep the internal logic of the script consistent for the remaining observers on Earth. The final bit is the sound of the universe's borders being retracted. We are being placed in a smaller and smaller box, a cosmic hole that is slowly being sealed from the outside. The loop closes, the initial noise. In the final moments of the signal, the binary ghost, Chapter 1, undergoes one last transformation. The repeating ones and zeros collapse into a single, infinite frequency. This is the initial noise of the Big Bang. As we hypothesized in Chapter 5, Voyager 1 hasn't just traveled to the edge of space, it has looped around the closed time-like curve to the very beginning of time. The final bit sent from the dying probe in 2026 is the exact same pulse of energy that triggered the expansion of the universe 13.8 billion years ago. We are the cause of our own beginning. The message that shouldn't exist is the very command that created the medium it travels through. The final silence at the end of the mission is the same silence that existed before the word was spoken. We are trapped in a self-causing loop, an eternal recurrence where the death of a 1970s probe is the catalyst for the birth of every star. The script is a circle. There is no editor coming to save us because we are the ones who wrote the ending that creates the beginning. The end of the transmission, the signal has flatlined. The deep space antennas are receiving nothing but the cold, static hum of a vacuum that has been deallocated. NASA will tell the public that the mission is over. They will release a commemorative video showing the blue pale dot photo and talking about the end of an era. But in the classified bunkers, they are watching the active map of the solar system flicker. They are feeling the temporal shudder of a reality that has lost its anchor. The final bit has been received. The handshake is over. The future has already happened. The past is still changing. And you are exactly where the script says you should be. You are at the end of the page. You are the last word of a sentence that is about to be read again. Don't be afraid of the silence. It is just the sound of the record resetting.